Good evening and welcome to the Business of Politics. I'm Derek Gabriel, broadcasting direct from TSG Studios in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. Joining me tonight are political correspondents Tisha Leonard and Brad Nugent. Welcome to you both. This will be a powerhouse program showcasing women who are shattering the glass ceiling from government and healthcare to corporate industry. Women leaders are front-facing to issues here in the Virgin Islands, on the mainland and the world stage. On January 20th, this country will swear in its first female vice president of the United States, and the territory will welcome 5 female senators to the 34th legislature of our Virgin Islands. On our last program, we had special guest VI Legislature Executive Director Pam Richards, who reminded us that women leaders of the Virgin Islands are not emerging, but finally taking their place as reflections of the matriarchal community we live in. This evening, we are pleased to welcome as our guests Senator Donna Fret Gregory, who won the most votes in the 2020 St. Thomas election and was re-elected to the 34th legislature. Dee Beecher Brown, Executive Director of the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands, and Attorney Siobhan Thomas, Chief Legal Counsel of the Wang F. Louis Hospital on St. Croix. This will be a full hour seeking insights into the changing roles of women in politics, business, and community as they take their seats of power and influence in our ever-changing world. President-elect Joe Biden has begun the important process of building his cabinet. What we have seen this week is a cadre of incredibly accomplished women who have been tapped to lead, some making history as their first in their roles, like Avril Haines, the first female head of the U.S. intelligence community, and Janet Yellen, the first female Secretary of the Treasury. Also included on the growing list is Neera Tanden, the head of OMB, and Linda Thomas Greenfield as UN ambassador. And diversity seems to be the name of the game. In the Virgin Islands, 5 female senators will take their seats in the 34th legislature, the most ever in the VI history at one time, one of whom may just take the top seat as the 3rd female Senate president to serve in that role. And every day we hear news stories of exceptional women from the VI who are making phenomenal strides, not just in the territory, but leaving their footprint on the world. So again, guys, I'm really excited to see what more the Biden-Harris administration has in store.
Absolutely.
We've already seen them name several women, not to mention women of color. A lot of, Brad, I'm really excited to see because we've seen a sneak peek of some of these women as political commentators, especially in this political season.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see them transition. A lot of them will be coming with, social media followings and how that translates and really has an effect and an impact on the Biden-Harris administration.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. They come in with their own constituency.
Right.
They have built up, like you said, a following, but a little bit beyond that. I think they have done stuff a little bit differently than, say, some of the people that are in the communications team for the outgoing president. These people have cut their teeth not only as reporters and journalists, they have led communications teams and other organizations. So they come with a discipline and a history that will clearly serve them well when they're communicating this Biden-Harris agenda. There's a lot of things that are happening in our country nationally. Clearly, this election showed you that there is a broad divide,
right,
and some people really believe a whole host of stuff, and it's going to take some honesty, accountability, and transparency, and people that can speak in a voice that's easily understandable about what's the stuff to come.
Right. Tisha, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to take the conversation in a completely different direction and say these ladies are bringing with them hope.
I
Hope
like that.
for the nation, hope for the younger generation of women that see these women in these roles, see images of themselves,
right,
and can know that, for lack of a better term, the sky is truly the limit for women.
And really, even as you see some of these positions that were male-dominated, we have the first ever female Secretary of the Treasury. That's a huge deal. You see that even in the intelligence community, male-dominated, and you see now the first woman being named in that.
4 years of patriarchy.
Right.
We'll go with your adjective. We'll use that. 4 years or something. We'll go with that.
But you're even seeing now that minorities are getting their chance to have a say and have a chance to mold the shape that that the direction of the conversation in the country will take. Right?
Exactly. And black women. Look at Stacey Abrams and the impact that she had on the election in Georgia. I mean, for me, the only thing that comes to mind is Black Girl Magic. People are finally realizing now the black girl magic is real.
Yeah.
It is. It
And
is.
it's time to be recognized.
Yeah,
It sure is.
Be recognized.
And Black Girl Magic can actually elect a president.
Exactly.
Right.
Stacey Abrams should be the
right.
secretary of anything she wants to do.
I feel Stacey Abrams is more powerful right where she is. Were she to join the cabinet, she would then have to, I guess, toe the line
Right.
for
Fall
the
in line.
Biden-Harris agenda. Whereas if she were left in the community, you know, she has the flexibility to move wherever she wants to move and make the impacts that she truly wants to make.
You know,
I think
I
she
did-
has a wider reach.
I didn't think about it that way. I would want to agree with you. I think she has developed a certain level of respect and credibility in that area, which is still needed. The integrity of these elections to make sure that more people who look like us and are progressive can be in a position of influence and power. Very good point. I did not look at it that way.
You know, guys, even just to take your point a bit further, we saw one black woman change an entire election for our country. Georgia is a state that's always been traditionally red.
Correct.
No matter how we like to slice it or dice it, it's been traditionally red, and one person.
One black woman. She
had
took
the
her
impact.
defeat
That's right.
and she turned that into purpose.
That's right.
Which turned into incredible results.
Yeah,
Georgia.
I would agree. Derek, you were talking about the communications team and the selections of women and women of color. One of the things that impressed me even more than that is that a lot of the women of color, or quite a few of them, are people with strong Caribbean roots. All right, we're talking about Kamala Harris, who, you know, her father is Jamaican, and she's very proud of that and talks about that as well.
That's right.
And then even on the communications team, we see people like Simone Sanders, but then we have Corinne Jean-Pierre, right, who I have seen as a political analyst on MSNBC, NBC,
One of my favorites.
CNN. And she's Haitian American, and her story, she wrote a book recently, is such a telling one. But what impressed me, that her story is part of my story,
Right,
as a Caribbean American as well, and that's what I can appreciate. And I hope we see more people from our community serving as well on that level.
Tisha, it's great to see us again, having our chance to really mold the national conversation, right?
It is.
It's really
It
great.
really is.
And again, we're going to keep this conversation going. We have more. Stay tuned.
Together, we are making progress against COVID-19 and getting our active lives and economy going again. As businesses unlock their doors and restock their shelves, you remain safer at home. But if you must go out, use the government's guidelines to stay safe. Wear your face covering when entering a business. No face covering, no service. Use hand sanitizer before entering and when leaving a business. And stay at least 6 feet apart. Practice social distancing. Safer at Home USVI is step 3 in our path to a new normal. We're depending on you to do your part. For more information, visit www.vi.gov.
I have.
I have asthma.
But all asthma triggers aren't the same for everyone.
My triggers are dust, mold, and pollen.
Strenuous exercise.
Perfume and tobacco smoke.
Anxiety and stress.
To manage my asthma, I needed a plan.
I worked with a neurologist to identify my asthma triggers and found the best medications to prevent and control my symptoms.
As I got older, my asthma changed, so I talked to my doctor about adjusting my plan.
Partnering with my family and healthcare provider helps me manage my asthma and keep doing the things that I love. And now I can breathe much easier.
To learn more about managing asthma, visit doh.vi.gov.
Also this week, we took some time to meet with attorney Siobhan Thomas, who is part of a dynamic team of women that is fighting the good fight against the global pandemic in the District of St. Croix. Our political correspondent, Ashley Scotland, took some time to visit the campus of the Wang F. Louis Hospital to hear that story.
Recently, here at the Business of Politics, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with attorney Siobhan Thomas, Chief Legal Counsel at the Wang F. Louis Hospital, located here on the island of St. Croix. Welcome to the Business of Politics, attorney Siobhan Thomas. You currently are serving as the Chief Legal Counsel for the hospital, right?
Yes, I am.
And you're also the PIO, the Press Information
Yes.
Officer as well?
Absolutely, yes.
And understanding that here at the hospital, almost the entire leadership team here are comprised and made up of females, right?
Yes, we have a very strong group of women that lead. We lead this hospital with pride, and we're just happy to serve the people of the Virgin Islands in our community.
Talk to me about the dynamics of having an all, not all, is it all female members in the leadership team?
Yes, absolutely. Our CEO, our CFO, I as legal counsel, our COO, even our project management team. I mean, we absolutely have a variety of backgrounds. So we all come from kind of different places within our sectors. We all bring that knowledge from different backgrounds. And so kind of converging those ideas and coming to a place where we all agree and we march forward as a team sometimes can be the challenge, but it's also the opportunity. So for us and for me, working on this team has truly been a privilege.
How has the collaboration been with working with a fellow female leader at the Department of Health, Justa Encarnacion?
So here's something interesting I learned the other day. The way that CEO Dyma Williams came to be at Juan Louis as a nurse on our floor was that she was recruited by our commissioner of the Department of Health. So literally, mentorship even in that form has resulted in the territory overall having a stronger response to this pandemic. So once again, the importance of mentorship. But overall, as far as responding to the pandemic, I think that the initial response to the pandemic, especially stateside, there wasn't a lot of, let's say, nurturing involved, making sure that we're truly caring for a patient as a whole, truly making sure that we are viewing persons that contract COVID-19 as a person first. Here at Juan Louis, especially in collaboration with the Department of Health, with Schneider Regional, that was one of the original goals, was to make sure that we are still treating people as people and not attaching a stigma to COVID-19. And by not attaching that stigma, increasing the testing, stating to people, this is not something you have to be scared of. Just come in, get the testing, and we will figure out how to do what we need to do after that to make you better. And I think that open approach, that ability to, or that willingness to test as many people as possible as we can, and really just bringing nurturing and caring to the process, up to and including bringing people groceries that contract the disease and they're quarantined. Things like that are what make the difference and what result in us being successful in battling this.
Oh, well, thank you for your response on that. Now, we're pivoting back to the hospital a little bit. Can you tell the people here at Business of Politics a little bit about what's happening right now with the hospital and its transition? As we know, against the backdrop of this, we're right now at the JFL hospital, but I know that you guys are in the process of completing what you call Wang F. Louis North, right?
Yes, JFL North. So we are actually in transition right now. Following the storms, as everyone knows, The third floor of JFL was severely compromised. That resulted in that area no longer being used. Of course, the third floor was the largest concentration of our inpatient beds. And so for us, we began the journey of learning how to battle through the FEMA funding process and ensure the funding of not just the temporary hospital, but also our permanent hospital that will also be coming online. So where we are now is the temporary hospital. JFL North is what we call it. JFL North is here. We have equipment in that building, and it looks like a hospital. But there is still more equipment that has to come into that building. There also are some connections that need to occur, for example, communications. That's one of the things we're working on right now. I'm actually surprised you can't hear drilling in the background, but just building that underground network of all of the fiber networks so that the phone lines connect and all of that. So we're looking at spring for when we're going to be officially open for our new space. And we look forward to welcoming everyone, whether in person or virtually, into the space.
So the executive leadership team here is leading the healthcare charge of the territory, particularly here on St. Croix, into the next, hopefully 100 years. But tell us a little bit about your mentors in your life, your women mentors in your life that kind of aided and guided you to help you to get to the position where you're currently located.
Absolutely. So I actually so my first real mentor wasn't a woman, but local to here, attorney Joel Holt was kind of the first attorney that took me under his wings. He taught me a lot about what it means to be an attorney. But the first woman that really mentored me was Judge Audrey Thomas, who I'm not related to, though we have the same last name. But Judge Thomas, I worked with her for about 2.5 years right after law school. I could hear her sometimes in my head saying, "Reading is fundamental, Siobhan." And we communicate, we talk about my career, where I'm going. And then when I went to Miami, I was working under Jennifer Miller at the law firm Hamilton Miller in Berthasell. And I worked with her for several years. And pretty much now I'm here at JFL. And I work under our CEO, Dima Williams, who is absolutely a great mentor, focused, has a vision for healthcare in the territory and where we need to go. And I have learned so much under her. I've learned a lot about leadership from her, for sure.
One more question. Your daughter.
Yes.
We kind of talked about it. You have a daughter, right?
Yes, the best 7-year-old in the world.
Now, how does she look at you? You are you're a powerhouse, right? How does she see you? And then how do you think the things that you do and the women that you are surrounded with impacts her and will impact her future?
So here's a funny story. Her and I were watching a television program a couple weeks ago, and she says to me, "Mom, what is that man doing being a lawyer?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, that's a woman's job, right?" And it took me aback for a minute because I didn't realize how much of her life she's been surrounded by these dynamic women attorneys. She calls Adrienne Dudley auntie. She calls Judge Thomas auntie. Key Walker knows my daughter. They hang out. Nisha Christian Hendrickson, that's her second mom. So she really just sees me as mom, but she also sees being an attorney as a mom job.
So in closing, I'm going to give you some time to kind of talk about your experiences here. What do you see next for healthcare in the territory? And what do you see next for women leadership here in the territory?
Well, where we are right now, I truly see the Virgin Islands on a whole as being on the cusp of true change in healthcare, not even just as far as our buildings or where we practice medicine, but also that institutional policy change, such as the reimbursements that we receive for Medicare and Medicaid, and how that is actually allocated. And so I see us really moving into a time of very rapid growth and change. So that's for healthcare overall. But for the JFL family, there is some very serious transition and change coming for us, coming up in the future. And we've already started the work of that transition and how we're going to move our patients into that new building. So we're looking forward to that in the future. As far as in the Virgin Islands, our women in leadership, we truly look forward to working with all leaders in the territory towards really changing the way that we do healthcare in the Virgin Islands, and ensuring that in the future we don't have to separate families because we can't offer those services here.
Attorney Thomas, has there been a stigma attached to a leadership team that's comprised of all females? Have you experienced that in interacting with people of the opposite sex and even other women when you are conducting business?
So in short, yes. The thought is always that women can't work well together. But for us, it really is just the opposite. I think the thing that unites all of us is that, number one, we are all moms. And so it's kind of a sandwich generation. So most of us take care of our parents to some degree, but we also have our children. And so that's one thing that unites us is for them, we want to make sure that they have the best health care possible. And for the community, we want to make sure that the best healthcare is available. So I think having that as a uniting front, the uniting vision and mission is what pulls all of us together. And we get the job done.
Thank you.
So guys, I had a blast watching Ashley's piece with attorney Siobhan Thomas. I know her personally, and I'm a witness to her arc and a lot of things that entire team is doing with the resources that they have and the expectation of not just the community, of the territory, right, and dealing with a global pandemic. So I just want to say kudos to all of them for what they are doing. One of the things that struck me, Derek, in that piece is her taking the time to talk about how important mentors are and mentorship. I believe that strongly. Like I always say this with some of my students. I teach a class from time to time about marketing to some students at a college in Florida, and I always tell them the best thing you can do with any of the lessons that you learn is to share it. Right. And I think mentorship is so important. And I'm going to ask Tisha, what did you think about that part in the story when she was talking about mentorship?
I found that to be very impactful. I feel as we now step into this new world where women are taking on or finally being recognized for their leadership skills, for us as women to pass on our knowledge and to share our experiences with other women, I see no negative in that. Yeah. I see no negative in that at all.
And
increasing your sister circle.
I agree. I'm very big on networking, and especially in this small community. But I don't want the impression to be made, and I don't think Attorney Thomas was talking about it, that everyone has to have a super title in order to be looked up as a person worthy of being a mentor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Brad, I mean, even to somebody, maybe a stay-at-home mom can be a mentor to their daughter. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's a certain level of power that comes with serving as a mentor, and this is the second person on our show today that's talked about the importance of mentorship. Correct. You had Senator Fred Gregory that spoke about the importance of each one reaching one, right? Because that's really how we raise the entire level. Right. Each person has to serve as a mentor for someone.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, what I liked in your piece as well, and it's consistent when we're talking about mentorship, is she went another step. I mean, she has an annual program, Senator Fred Gregory, Yes, She Can, which is all about mentorship. And again, it reminds me, the greatest thing that you can do whenever you can claim any level of success, and again, I don't mean a title, any level of success that you have is taking those lessons and saying, here, let me share that with you. Now, the other thing about the interview with Attorney Thomas is, and Derek, you have some experience with this. You have your finger on some of the transitions that's happening in this community and stuff like that. Is that in the District of St. Croix, there's a lot of pressure of them to act. The Wang Louis Hospital, even prior to the hurricanes, was poised for some transitions, and the hurricane came in and just elevated the need to do something new. So I know they're working very hard to put those things in place because the community needs it. But do you think that from time to time when you see women in leadership positions, they get a little bit more of the darts than, say, some of the guys would do?
Yeah, and I think especially when you look at that's a team that is women-led, all women. I as you look at it, sometimes it may get a little bit more scrutiny. But overall, again, I say we're used to it. We come from a matriarchal society, and I think that as these glass ceilings, the proverbial glass ceilings, are being broken everywhere, there is a moment of uncomfortableness for some of the guys, right? You now have the women starting to take up, and it's like, all right, guys, take a step to the side. We're about to run with this for a little bit, and I mean, progress does not come with its uncomfortable moments. So I'm looking forward to see how this progresses, man. I'm looking forward to the next generation of women. I have a daughter, Brad, so I'm always looking for positive role models for her. I think Siobhan is a great example.
Yeah, no.
She's a great example.
By the way, I should let you know, I have a daughter too.
Can I add just one more thing before we go? We've that statement about we live in a matriarchal society. We've said that numerous times. However, isn't it ironic that although we live in a matriarchal society, these women in their leadership roles, they are under a microscope that is even more examined than their male counterparts. So it seems like an oxymoron almost.
A catch-22, right?
Catch-22.
And they're still expected to carry home.
And they're still expected to go home and be mother, wife. So.
Right. And it reminds me of the proverbial saying, you can have it all, but just not all at once.
All at once.
Right.
And I would agree. I can appreciate the hard work living in the District of St. Croix. I can appreciate the hard work that is being done by that team. I know them personally. We used to play down the road, stickball and stuff. Some of them I went to college to, and even then they were so impressive. And so I want to say kudos to them. Thank you, Ashley, for that story. And I want to congratulate Attorney Siobhan Thomas for being another leader in our community. I want everyone to stay with us. When we come back, we have another story to share with you.
Together, we are making progress against COVID-19 and getting our active lives and economy going again. As businesses unlock their doors and restock their shelves, you remain safer at home. But if you must go out, use the government's guidelines to stay safe. Wear your face covering when entering a business. No face covering, no service. Use hand sanitizer before entering and when leaving a business. And stay at least 6 feet apart. Practice social distancing. Safer at Home USVI is step 3 in our path to a new normal. We're depending on you to do your part. For more information, visit www.vi.gov.
I have
I have asthma.
But all asthma triggers aren't the same for everyone.
My triggers are dust, mold, and pollen.
Strenuous exercise.
Perfume and tobacco smoke.
Anxiety and stress.
To manage my asthma, I needed a plan.
I worked with a neurologist to identify my asthma triggers and found the best medications to prevent and control my symptoms.
As I got older, my asthma changed, so I talked to my doctor about adjusting my plan.
Partnering with my family and healthcare provider helps me manage my asthma and keep doing the things that I love. And now I can breathe much easier.
To learn more about managing asthma, visit doh.vi.gov.
We're back to continue this exciting discussion on women breaking onto the power stage and commanding space in policy-making leadership roles that will help to shape the future of the Virgin Islands. I had the distinct pleasure this week of meeting with Dee Beecher Brown, the Executive Director for the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands. She had some interesting insights on the leadership roles women will continue to have in 2021. Let's take a look. So we're here on Main Street on the island of St. Thomas to have a conversation with Dee Beecher Brown. She is the president of one of the largest nonprofit organizations here in the territory, the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands. We wanted to discuss with her about some of the challenges, the trials and triumphs that she's been having in 2020 and looking forward to seeing what can be done in 2021. Let's go have a talk. Dee, thank you for taking some of your time to meet with us here at the Business of Politics to have a conversation that I think is very important to this community. I know it's important to you as well. Well, we are having an interesting year, 2020. A lot of things are happening around the world and here in the territory. And I know the foundation is at the middle of doing what it does best, which is filling in those gaps within our community where there is a need, trying to make sure that members in our community, whether they're children, people that are in needs, and that are at the margins sometimes in our community, have a helping hand, have an idea that they know that an organization exists and good people exist to help them when they are in need, to make sure they remain whole. I wanted to start off our conversation by asking you, how did you jump into this fire? How did you start this adventure here in St. Thomas and doing the things that you do as the executive director of the foundation?
Well, my husband and I moved here in 1995.
Okay.
He worked for a bank, and we came for 3 years. And we arrived a couple of months before Marilyn hit.
Oh, my condolences.
Which was quite an introduction to the Virgin Islands.
I would say so. Okay.
But it was also part of why we loved the Virgin Islands. It was an introduction to people we might have never met before, and just the kind of feeling that the community had about helping each other and getting through a crisis. I think it was a big factor in why when 3 years later, when the bank was telling us to go someplace else, we were like, we think we'll stay.
Okay.
This is home.
Yeah,
this is home.
You
we
planted some roots.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And talking about roots, I know that we have seen a lot of fruit come from the hard work that you do and your team 25 years ago. So I know you've seen many leaders come through this community, at least 4 governors and countless, I don't have enough fingers and toes to count, folks in the legislature. But oftentimes there's this expectation that when we talk about leaders, that we're just talking about political leaders.
Right.
And I don't think we have had a robust conversation about those folks that work on the other side, the other hand of community leadership, a lot of the nonprofit organizations that exist within this community. Now, I think your organization is quite unique. Not only is it a nonprofit organization, but you service other nonprofits.
That's right.
And one of the things I want to talk about before we go to that part of our conversation is that 2020 is an interesting year for a whole host of reasons, and one being the pandemic that is happening. And we know how that is affecting disproportionately communities of color, households led by women, and young children. What we're seeing as we come to the end of 2020, when we're talking about leadership, we are seeing what some say are not new, but we're having a great new conversation about all the women leaders that have been coming out this year as well. Many would consider you as a woman leader here in the community as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that expectation, that notion that you are, and how does that impact you in dealing with other women leaders in this community, or women in general?
Well, I feel that women bring a different quality to leadership, and I think that diversity is really helpful in any situation. So I'm honored to be a woman leader in our community, and I'm also honored to work with other women who are providing amazing leadership in the community. My second in command, the vice president of the foundation, is a woman, Dr. Scabrielle.
Yes.
And much of the work that we do, which is really the heavy lifting for communities that are sometimes left out, is led by other women. So recently the foundation was able to make a grant to 4 organizations to help them with the heavy lifting that they're doing in COVID, in trying to care for families whose financials are devastated and who have children and families to take care of. So we were, the 4 agencies that we work with primarily, we've worked with them for years and never more intensively than since Irma Maria and now since COVID. But Lutheran Social Services, Methodist Training Outreach Center, VI Center for Healthy Communities, and also the Catholic Charities. And those 4 organizations are all led by committed, powerful partners who are women.
Okay, fantastic. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I think the Virgin Islands is leading in that trend. We have always had women at the forefront and leading from behind and in the front as well when it comes to dealing with issues that are impacting our community. I know that you pay attention to things that are happening in the world, and of course in the United States. And right now we have a president-elect, Joe Biden, and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
Yes.
First woman that has ever had that position, first woman of color as well. And what we've seen over the last few days is that there has been a slew of appointments during this transition period where clearly women are going to be a leading voice in how to right-side some of the issues that have come out of the pandemic and to prioritize some other issues going forward in 2021. What are your thoughts on what you're seeing nationally?
It makes me so hopeful because I really believe that there will be a strengthening of leadership by bringing more women into the communications and the leadership. I also feel that I have been fortunate in my life to work with men who felt that about women. So our chair, who's been chair for the last 7 years through the hurricanes and now through COVID, is a man, George Dudley, who respects women. My husband is a man who respects his mother, respects his sisters. It's been, and I think that's a really important part of what we need to communicate to young women, that they are bringing something very important to the table, and that their contribution is unique because they're women, and they're providing us perspective that they should be proud to have.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you because one of the things that I've noticed in some corners, when we start to have these more and more of these conversations about women leadership and young women demonstrating their confidence, having good mentors and going forward and trying to do their best, there seems to be in some corners thinking that this is a this or that in terms of men. And a lot of us are saying it's a this and that.
Yes.
You can celebrate one person without necessarily putting down or standing on someone else. Can you speak to, you just mentioned it, can you speak a little bit more about why is it still a good conversation to have by celebrating women, how important it is for young boys to see their moms and their sisters also as leaders as well?
Priceless. I mean, I just think in some ways, we may be catching up to what you just talked about, the recognition that the value of one group or one individual doesn't diminish the value of another group or another individual. And I just think that philosophy is really what builds strength in a community, in a country, in a world. So, you know, and I want young women to feel that they're a part of that, and maybe more newly introduced to that thinking.
Yeah, no, I think that will be, that is critical. That you don't have to stand on someone's back to elevate yourself. You can all stand shoulder to shoulder.
Absolutely.
I would love to give you an opportunity to talk about, because I know there's so many things that the foundation is doing. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of your priorities coming out of the wake of the first hit of the pandemic and dealing with COVID-19? I know your hands are full going into 2021. Do you want to talk about one or two of your priorities here for the foundation?
Sure. The foundation just issued a report on our 3 years of recovery and building back after the storms, and that the Irma Maria was really an important milestone for the foundation. It was certainly a disaster,
milestone.
But it was also an opportunity where, as I said, my husband and I arrived here right before Hurricane Marilyn, and at that point there was philanthropic help, but sort of not substantial. One of the things that we experienced after the Irma Maria was that by having in place the Community Foundation, we were able to accept over $18 million in help. And that help came from people in the territory, it came from people in the country, it came from people throughout the world. And we've just completed now being able to make grants of over $16 million in our community to help our colleagues who are doing the important work of building back. So, I mean, that's something we so celebrated. But I would say in some way we were feeling like, wow, it's 3 years, we got the report out, and then COVID showed up. And I think where we are is thinking that we're a team at the foundation. We work together. We have relationships with over 150 nonprofits who are doing work throughout the territory. So we are trying to listen, learn, and connect resources to the important work that so many of our partners are doing. And I would say that's a priority for us. And it's also figuring out, we kind of felt that we got this disaster thing, and then all of a sudden something showed up which has very different impacts on the community. So although the storms were devastating, the pandemic is devastating in a different way. And in some ways we're working with the rest of the world, but it's not everybody looking at us and helping us. We're a part of the global community facing this. So that's a kind of a different way to think about it. And it also is an opportunity to celebrate the importance of our local support, so that when other donors have other priorities for good reasons, in the territory we still have such strong support from our corporate partners. For example, the foundation just made over $300,000 in scholarship awards. A major part of that came because Heavy Materials, a local business, gave us a grant for education support.
Fantastic.
So I mean, it's celebrating is kind of the way. I mean, my feeling is that by lifting each other up, we're all going to get to a better place.
Fantastic. No, that is 300,000. That's awesome. And I'm glad that the foundation and with your leadership that you're here to receive that, and that we are the beneficiaries of that. One of the things that I would like to say in closing is that I want to thank you again for the opportunity to have the conversation with you.
Thank you.
And I think through, again, your leadership And what everyone does here at the foundation not only provides a need for our community by helping them attain resources, I think one of the best benefits of your organization is that you also create resilience. So the next time we have any challenge going forward, a network has already been created, certain leaders are in place, relationships are there, and that we can rise to any of those challenges. So thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you and also for your perspective on things. I think it's really part of what we need to move our community forward.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I really had a good time with that interview. I just thought Dee was such an interesting person, and she had such an interesting story on how they came here 25 years ago and they thought they were doing something else, and here she is 3 or 4 governors later. Like I said in the interview, I can't count how many senators later. She's been here for almost a generation, and I think the work that they're doing is very important. Tisha, I know you have some perspective on nonprofits and the role that they play within our society. Today we talked about several different things, including the role of women in politics and that leadership perspective, the role of women that we have in healthcare and leading that charge. But in between there are people who are not in business or in government, but are still doing big things. You want to talk a little bit about that? What was your thoughts on that interview?
Well, the nonprofits fulfill a void. They fill a void that the government can't. It presents an opportunity for us to truly be our brothers and sisters keeper in the community.
Love that.
They're manned by volunteers. And of course, many of them are led by women. And I think leading a nonprofit organization is almost natural, would be a natural calling for a woman because of our nurturing, because of our ability to look at problems from different perspectives, our open-mindedness. And I think what I found interesting was when Ms. Beecher Brown said that we're living in a time now where women are finally being valued, where women are finally being valued, and there can be no negative from that. And I found, to me, that was a powerful statement.
No, absolutely. You know, one of the things that struck me, Derek, was some of the things that was said off camera. What I think is so important and a hallmark of a good leader is when you are so easy in celebrating others.
Right.
Some of the things that were left off the edits there was, you know, Executive Director Brown constantly was telling you about the people that she worked with and how she was so happy to work with this person, that person, this, and they're doing great things and this and that. And I had to remind her, the interview's about you, right? But I think that's so awesome. And like I said, a hallmark of good leaders is when you don't come in with what I like to say a marshmallow ego,
right?
That you're okay, and that you understand that part of getting your stuff done is finding and identifying people that can do things well and telling them, thank you, you're doing a great job.
Right.
And I think, again, that comes in a natural fit when you're working in the world of nonprofits, right? Because your success is not based on a bottom line.
It's about service.
It's about service and results. What's your thought about that?
So, you know, Brad, 2 things I've always admired about Dee. One, first of all, she always gives others, whether a man or woman. But as you said, you always see the women moving through nonprofits. She always gives others a chance to shine. So you see a lot of our leaders in other nonprofits have came through CFVI and have really made their initial impact there. And she's never tried to, you know, take away the spotlight, always pointing it to someone else, right? So that they have their opportunity. Second thing, I know this is about the women, but wherever you see Dee, her husband always supports her.
She mentioned that.
Yeah,
again, that was on our editing floor. She always talks about her partner, her husband.
He's always supporting her, Brad. You hear about the woman standing behind or standing beside their husband. In this case, it's always her husband standing behind and standing beside and supporting her. I think that's really important.
Right.
You know?
And again, we don't talk about this often enough, right? The U.S. Virgin Islands is a community of people that come from all over the world, okay? Our diversity is our strength. And my thing is, you know, once you come here, you live here 2 years, 3 years, as long as you can eat fish or fungi, use a Virgin Islander, right? Or at least if you buy me a plate, use a Virgin Islander as well. And clearly, they have integrated themselves in the community in a big, big way. And so I was delighted with that interview. It reminded me again about the importance of supporting nonprofits, and that I think I'm a little overdue. You too, Derek. A little overdue with volunteering some time. We can never get too busy.
You can never get too
busy
busy.
to not contribute some time.
That's right.
To a worthy cause or in the service of others. Tisha, I want you to have the last word around this conversation about nonprofits. Again, you know, the hospital is in the middle of the fight. We know we have our women leaders, policymakers that are trying to allocate resources to do it. But then we have the people who don't have any incentives of money, don't have any incentives of having their names up on a billboard, that are equally committed, people that are in the nonprofit world. So I want you to have the last word and your thoughts about either the interview or how we all, after watching this, can do a little bit more.
I think it's important for every person in the community to recognize that just because the problem is not at your front door, it doesn't mean that the problem does not exist. Okay, the problem could be just 2 steps away from your front door. And these nonprofits, the role that they play within the community is invaluable. It is invaluable, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us, like you said, to find the time to donate to a nonprofit, volunteer with a nonprofit, and it doesn't have to necessarily be with a big organization. You can volunteer at your child's school. All of those things go a long way to helping to better our community.
I totally agree with you, and one of the things I often tell other people when I have been in the fortunate position to share a good word is at the end of the day, you're only as good as the company you keep and the people that you serve. And on that note, I would like to say we have more stories to tell. So after this break, we'll come back and share one more with you. You're watching The Business of Politics.
Together, we are making progress against COVID-19 and getting our active lives and economy going again. As businesses unlock their doors and restock their shelves, you remain safer at home. But if you must go out, use the government's guidelines to stay safe. Wear your face covering when entering a business. No face covering, no service. Use hand sanitizer before entering and when leaving a business. And stay at least 6 feet apart. Practice social distancing. Safer at Home USVI is step 3 in our path to a new normal. We're depending on you to do your part. For more information, visit www.vi.gov.
I have
asthma.
But all asthma triggers aren't the same for everyone.
My triggers are dust, mold, and pollen.
Strenuous exercise.
Perfume and tobacco smoke.
Anxiety and stress.
To manage my asthma, I needed a plan.
I worked with a neurologist to identify my asthma triggers and found the best medications to prevent and control my symptoms.
As I got older, my asthma changed, so I talked to my doctor about adjusting my plan.
Partnering with my family and healthcare provider helps me manage my asthma and keep doing the things that I love. And now I can breathe much easier.
To learn more about managing asthma, visit doh.vi.gov.
The door of opportunity is wide open for the Democratic Party in the Virgin Islands. We are seeing a renewed collaboration within the party, and the appointment of many new senators taking their seats on January 20th will certainly come with fresh new ideas and solutions to help tackle many of the economic, political, and social challenges that have plagued our islands for many years. I caught up with Senator Donna Fret Gregory earlier today to hear her thoughts on what's on the Democratic Party's legislative agenda. Here's what she had to share. Good morning, Senator Gregory.
Good morning, Derek, and how are you?
Doing
it's always
well.
a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
I know you have
having
a
me.
busy schedule trying to wrap up the 33rd legislature.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
So Senator Gregory, beginning, want to have a conversation. Would you kind of get your thoughts on, of course, the Biden-Harris administration is coming in, and we're seeing that early on, he's nominated several women in key positions of leadership. Not only several women, but several women of color. You yourself being a woman of color who has held several leadership positions, how do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, let's do this. Let's just keep it Derek and Donna. Let's keep it to Derek and Donna.
Right, I like that.
You know, I'm very excited about the Biden administration. And the fact that so many women have gotten an opportunity to serve in his administration, it speaks volumes for where the country is going. It speaks volumes to the fact that America is definitely changing. And the fact that America is changing, it means that the Virgin Islands will follow suit.
Right.
Of course, the Virgin Islands has, if you ask me, we've led the pack over the years. I've seen many women that has led, been in leadership positions in the territory over the years. But just going back to the Biden administration, I think it's a good thing. I think that, women didn't get the right to vote until I think sometime in the 1920s.
Right.
So it speaks volumes. It says that we're growing, and the world is growing as well. But it says that America in particular is in fact growing, and it's awesome opportunities for women. And I see women truly leading this country eventually.
Right.
Yes.
That's a great point. And Donna, it's often says that sometimes the Virgin Islands lags behind the mainland. But with having women in leadership positions, I feel like we kind of set the trend for the mainland.
Yes.
Here in the territory, you've seen strong women historically, whether it's a Ruby Rouse, a Lorraine Berry, always leading our government, but also still taking time to be a woman, still be a mother, still respect the role of a mother, of a woman in our community. Donna, you yourself, you've been in several leadership positions.
Yes.
You've still managed to keep your family there.
Absolutely.
You've raised a strong family. Tell us about that work-life balance a little bit as a woman in a leadership position.
Well, that's so important. And back to your point, I have been given lots of great opportunities here in the Virgin Islands as a woman, and I've served in a number of key leadership positions here. But when it comes to work-life balance, it's so important that the family is key. And I've gotten the support that I've gotten from my family with raising my kids is so important. But the one thing that I'll say to any woman that serves in leadership positions, whether you just have your husband or children, you have to maintain that work-life balance. A lot of times in those key leadership positions, you find yourself just working excessive hours, but you have to make sure that you carve out that time to ensure that you provide that nurturing to your children, to your family, to your parents. I mean, I'll tell you, I take care of my mom, my elderly mom right now. She's 88 years old. And although I serve as senator, I have to find the time. I have to carve out the time and say, guys, I have to make a hard stop. I have to take care of my mom. So it's all about that work-life balance, how you view yourself as not only as a woman, but also as a part of a very close-knit community, and how we make things better for ourselves, and in doing that, we also make things better for our children. So I've always prided myself in ensuring that my children are successful, that I do what I have to do to ensure their success, and as I look around, I want the same thing for the children here in the territory. Yes.
Donna, that's a really, I like where you're going with that, and I know you've always taken time to volunteer.
Absolutely.
And to take time for mentorship. It's important that a lot of our young women, and especially our younger professionals that are getting into their professional career, see other women that are able to keep that balance going.
Yes.
How do you see yourself, let's say, as a mentor for some of these women?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very excited to share with you that I have a conference that I put on every year. It's called Yes, She Can, and it's for girls.
Okay.
And I have a foundation called the DFG Foundation, and as part of this foundation, we put on this conference called Yes, She Can for girls, and it's really focusing on mentoring high school girls. And just this past month, my staff and I were talking about, we should push it down to the 7th and 8th graders. I think it's so important that we talk to our young people about the fact that when they see somebody like myself, I didn't just arrive.
Right.
The same experiences that they had, I had those experiences as well. There were times that I didn't feel that I was good enough.
Right.
But when you have good mentors and you have people in your circle who you can look at and who can have conversation and who you can share with, it becomes a lot easier. So, it's so important for us to remind not only our young girls, but our young men as well that, we didn't just arrive on the scene.
Right.
We had our challenges, and it's all how we break, I'm gonna say the glass ceiling, how we break the glass ceiling. And it don't have to be a literal glass ceiling. It's how you break the norm in your little, very small way.
Right.
You can do that, but you have to remain focused. And what's important is that we, as a community, provide that support. So in my legislative work, I always carve out the time to support young people. I also serve as a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority.
Okay.
And in that, in the work that I do, we do lots of volunteerism, not only for young people, but we also give back to the elderly. So, you give back to your entire community. We have a close-knit community, and we have to figure out how to give back to the whole of that community.
So as an AKA, I know you're excited because our new Vice President-elect is also an AKA,
Yeah.
Kamala Harris. So I know that's a really good thing for you, right?
Yes, and I've met her a couple of times because,
Okay.
I am a very active Alpha Kappa Alpha woman.
Okay.
And I go to conferences. So when we go to our conference, we call it the Boulé. She's there from time to time.
Awesome.
So, I've had the opportunity to have a conversation with her. And I'm very excited about that. Very excited about the fact that here it is that I live on a very small island. And I actually know, I've interacted with the current Vice President-elect of the United States of America. It's awesome, and it says to us that little girls in the Virgin Islands and throughout the country, they can achieve whatever they want to achieve. I came from, and I'm going to go there. I came from Rungnefield. I always tell people that, I grew up Rungnefield here in St. Thomas, and I remember walking in my little slippers going. I never expected to be a legislator,
right.
But what I do though, what I did expect because of my father is to work hard. And that's the expectation that my parents always had for me. And I made that a part of my life expectancy and as my life expectancy, as well as for my children. I look at it the same way. You have to work hard. You have to give. You work hard, you play hard. And then, you'll see the results.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
And Donna, I think it's important, again, we talk about balance. It's important to let our folks know that you do have to set aside time for work, for play, and for family, right? Shifting focus a little bit, moving to the 34th legislature.
Yes.
Donna, you are one of the few senators that has actually, again, had several executive leadership positions leading you up to being a senator.
Yes.
As such, we're expecting that you will be looked to in some leadership capacity moving forward with the 34th legislature. How do you see the 34th legislature moving forward and differing or doing anything different than the 33rd?
Well, I think that, for instance, in my case, of course, the 33rd legislature, I was a brand new senator and have learned a lot. Coming from an executive department or executive leadership, if you will, is very different from being a legislator. Being a legislator, you have to figure out how to work with people. In as much as you have good legislation, if you don't work with people and have that interaction and the push and pull, give and take, then you're not successful. So I've really figured out how to be successful amongst my colleagues. And that we have about 5 new women,
right.
5 women that will serve in the 34th legislature. So I'm looking forward to working with those women. But what I will say is, I am not one that's really focused on working with women per se. What's important to me is working with people who will bring it every day.
Right.
And that includes my male colleagues.
Right.
So my intention is to work with my male colleagues. As far as leadership is concerned, there's discussion around the leadership of the legislature, and I'm certain that I will play an important role in the leadership of the legislature coming up for the 34th. But if I do play that role in any leadership position in the legislature, what I will say is that my focus will really be on, so how do we reflect back on all of the legislation that has been passed over the years, and how do we begin to truly enforce and work with the executive branch for enforcement. I think, there's a lot of work that has been done throughout the years here in the territory, but we do not really go back and check. What do you call it? Accountability and transparency. So I want to focus on accountability and transparency to ensure that, you know, whatever work that we do here on the grounds of this legislature, and then the governor enacts, and then, you know, it becomes law, that in fact is meaningful work, and we're seeing it in the territory executed, the enactment and the execution. So that's one of the things that I most definitely want to focus on. You know, we always get kind of distracted because we hit the ground running and we really don't focus on, so what do we do before?
Right.
But I think your history really determines what your future is. So I'm going to look back at that.
You know, Donna, this has been a very thoughtful conversation.
Yes.
It's been really great to reflect with you,
Thank
not
you.
only on your career, but also on how you see yourselves fostering those future young women to come. We really appreciate the time. I know this is a busy time
Yes.
as you're trying to wrap up the
Yes.
33rd and going into the 34th. And we're looking forward to seeing big things from you in the 34th.
Well, you know what? This is what I'll say. We're going to have big things, but we all have to work together collectively
Right.
to include not only our, you know, a lot of times we focus on our elected leaders, but our stakeholders. I also think that we need to do some more engaging of our stakeholders. So yes, I'm looking forward to great things for the 34th legislature and beyond.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to
Definitely.
see you and to chat with you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
So Tisha, we had a great time talking to Senator Donna Fret Gregory. Of course, we touched on several areas of her life, not only her career, as you know, she's had several executive leadership roles, but also having a chance to touch on the personal side, which I think is important. What do you think?
I think it's extremely important to highlight the fact that she's able to balance her work and her family life.
Right.
When Senator Fred Gregory came on scene in the 33rd legislature, I mean, her leadership skills were the first thing that you noticed.
Right.
She was always prepared. She asked very poignant questions, and it was quite impressive. And to hear her speak about her ability to be so powerful in the legislature and still be nurturing and caring and a mom at home, I think that's incredible.
Yeah, it really is important. I mean, and it shows just how difficult sometimes it is for a woman, especially in our society. But the one great thing, Brad, is the Virgin Islands has always been a matriarchal dominant society. I
would agree.
Right? So it's something that we're used to, right?
Yeah, I definitely would agree. I mean, I grew up in a household filled with women. My mother is only about like barely 5 feet, but she is a lay minister and huge in our church growing up. And she always had the quiet touch. You know, you don't have to have the loudest voice or stand 6 feet tall, but if you have good character and ability to, I guess, talk in a way that connects you to others, they will follow and they would lead. One of the things I thought that was interesting in watching your piece, Derek, is that to see her speak with not even confidence, right? Just speak frankly about her positions on different things and her expectations. And I know that some of her colleagues can appreciate her candor, but I don't know if they like it all the time. And the funny thing is, let's be frank, if it was a man conducting themselves so with, you know, being so strident in their positions, being willing to talk honestly about how they feel about different ideas, not having an issue with the person, but taking issue with ideas, oh, they would have loved this guy. You know, they would say, oh my God, he's a leader, da da da. But unfortunately, when women do it, they come with a whole host of other adjectives I won't like to repeat. And I think, however, we're getting beyond that as we see more and more women reflect their true self in society and take their leadership roles. So whether they're leading from behind or in front, I'm glad that we're having this conversation right now. And I say kudos to the soon-to-be Senate. Oh no, I'm not supposed to say that.
No,
I'm not supposed to say. Hey, I am
rumblings.
I'm very glad and enthusiastic about Senator Fred Gregory's consistent commitment to taking the lead wherever the lead needs to be. So, and that was a great segment, Derek.
Thank you.
I can tell that you all are very comfortable, and that it demonstrates that, okay, she can be a senator one day, but she can be your good friend at the same time. So.
Right. Well, you know, Tisha, again, this is one thing we always say. The Virgin Islands sometimes lags behind the mainland. But this is one time where we've been actually decades ahead of the mainland, where our women have been ahead, right?
Decades ahead. You can go back to the days of Ruby Rouse, Lorraine Berry, and Abramson.
Yeah.
Right.
One of my Virgin Islands sheroes.
Okay.
You know, whatever. Oh God, I'm sorry. What's the word that I'm looking for? her challenges set aside, you know, she was a giant in this territory.
Right.
Like many other women.
Yeah,
Right.
no, you're absolutely right. And I see how you took a pause in trying to search for the right words, but it's okay. I think every hero has a challenge that becomes part of their story. And it's really, I remember Joe Biden talking about that when he was talking about his mother, who was the real hero in his life, right? That she said that it's really not about, you know, how much times you get knocked down, is how many times you stand up. And so many women in our community, we're so quick to label and to be dismissive of them, but they persevere no matter what the challenge, whether being a single mother raising an entire family, whether being the first woman in their office. One of the things that I found that's consistent in all the people that we interviewed today was that they just kept pushing on. Whether they were in charge, to the left, to the right, or behind, they recognized that they had something to contribute and they was going to go forward. So.
And again, we're really looking forward to seeing this play itself out in the legislature, as we have 5 women coming up.
Full of them.
Right.
It's going to be dynamic. I think all of those personalities coming together, you have some that are more aggressive and others that are more laid back, and it's going to be very interesting to see how all these women get together and work together to move the territory forward.
Yeah, one of the things I think, if I'm not mistaken, is that all of the women that are there are mothers. And when you have mothers in the mix, I think it brings a different dynamic.
Right. Again, guys, so it really was a great segment. I enjoyed the conversation. And we've got more to come. Stay tuned.
Together, we are making progress against COVID-19 and getting our active lives and economy going again. As businesses unlock their doors and restock their shelves, you remain safer at home. But if you must go out, use the government's guidelines to stay safe. Wear your face covering when entering a business. No face covering, no service. Use hand sanitizer before entering and when leaving a business. And stay at least 6 feet apart. Practice social distancing. Safer at Home USVI is step 3 in our path to a new normal. We're depending on you to do your part. For more information, visit www.vi.gov.
I have
asthma.
But all asthma triggers aren't the same for everyone.
My triggers are dust, mold, and pollen.
Strenuous exercise.
Perfume and tobacco smoke.
Anxiety and stress.
To manage my asthma, I needed a plan.
I worked with a neurologist to identify my asthma triggers and found the best medications to prevent and control my symptoms.
As I got older, my asthma changed, so I talked to my doctor about adjusting my plan.
Partnering with my family and healthcare provider helps me manage my asthma and keep doing the things that I love. And now I can breathe much easier.
To learn more about managing asthma, visit doh.vi.gov.
It has been said that the glass ceiling doesn't exist when you're building your own house, and our guests tonight are doing just that. They are trailblazers of excellence who have set the bar high and are showing the next generation of young women that high-impact leadership roles are within their reach, and the contributions they offer through their unique female perspective can impact the future of not only these Virgin Islands, but of the whole world. I'm Derek Gabriel. Thank you for joining us tonight. Be sure to tune in on our next episode on December 17th when we continue our conversation on, well, the business of politics. Until then, stay safe Stay involved and stay informed. Have a good evening.